The Lazy Daisy stitch gets its name because of the way you can use this particular stitch to quickly churn out a bunch of flower petals. It can of course be used for items other than just flower petals. To make one, you'll see here I have drawn a small flower with some little petals around it, and I'm going to come up in my fabric at the base of the petal, right here. Then I'm actually just going to go right back down at the same point where I came up. But I'm not going to pull that loop all the way through. Instead, I'm going to kind of flatten it down a little bit over one of my petal shapes, and I'm going to bring my needle back up again, and it's going to come up at the top of the petal this time, inside my loop of thread. And now I will begin to pull it through, and as I pull my thread, that loop is going to start to tighten down a little bit. Now I don't want to pull it too tight, because if I do that, then my loop that I'm making here is going to end up squeezing together just into a straight line or a flat bunch of threads. And I don't want that. I want it to have a nice rounded shape. So I'm going to gently tug it into shape. And once I have it the way I like it, then I'm going to finish anchoring that petal down by putting my needle in. So here at the top of the petal is where my thread came up, and it came up on the inside of the loop. Now it's going to go down in the same spot, but on the outside of the loop. So I'm going to put that needle there underneath the top of my flower petal and pull that through. And that little stitch there will anchor that petal down. And that's all there is to the Lazy Daisy stitch. Now I've continued to work my way around, and I've got 2 petals left here to do now. I'll let you see me do the last 2 here. So I come up at the base of the petal, I go back down in the same spot, I pull the thread through, but I leave a little bit of a loop. And then I lay my loop flat. One thing to be careful of here, make sure that your thread, your loop, doesn't get crossed. So make sure your loop is not twisted like that. That can end up affecting the way your petal shape lays flat on the fabric. So there you go. There's my loop. And now I bring the needle up at the top of the petal inside the loop. I pull the thread through. As I said before, the tension here is very important. Don't pull your thread tight. Just pull it right to that end point where your loop is in the shape that you want it to be. And then put the needle down on the outside of your loop and pull that down to anchor your petal in place. Here's my last petal up at the base, down at the same spot. Pull my loop through, make sure it's lying flat. Bring my needle up at the top of the loop, pull it snug, and then anchor it down by putting the needle down on the outside of the loop. And so there, right there, is your Lazy Daisy and a flower made with that. At this point, I might do something different to fill in the center of my flower, but I've got some really nice quick petals put into place there. There is also a variation of the Lazy Daisy stitch that can be done if you need to do something like sometimes when I'm making a face in my embroidery, maybe I'm doing a little person and I want a quick smile on a small mouth. I can do something where I come up on this side, I put my needle down in a separate place. So this would be coming up on one side of a smile. The needle would go down on the other side of the smile. Same thing as before, I keep my loop, and then I would bring my needle up again where I want the bottom of my smile curve to be. Pull that down. And then on the outside of my thread, of my curve, I anchor it down just like I would with the petal. So there, if you ever needed to make a quick curve, you could also tack a thread down that way to do that. That's all there is to it.